Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Pioneering Change. I'm your host, Ryan Early, and today we have a very special guest, Lee Vernon, a longtime friend, MP, and first responder of over 30 years. Lee, thank you for joining us today.
Man, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be able to get with you and discuss things.
Well, I am over the moon excited to have you on. You've got so many things going on that I think will resonate with every patriot on the show. So if you would you give us just a brief background, kind of how you got into the place that you're at today?
Yeah, 30 plus years as a first responder, retired now. Spent the majority of my career in a large metropolitan city here in Central Texas, and rode fire trucks and did medical calls and fires and all that good stuff. Loved it, but really noticed throughout my career I excelled at medicine. Have a business, Code 3 Medical Services, that for the last almost 10 years have been teaching and certifying individuals from general public to first responders to doctors, physicians, nurses, surgeons, everything from basic first aid up to paramedic level type training. So teaching medicine, that's been a passion, and everything from basic stuff in the streets and survival to wilderness. Worst case, shit hit the fan type. Can you survive on your own? A lot of wilderness and austere environment training that we do as well. And then when I retired, I noticed, having dealt with PTSD myself, there's got to be a different way. There's got to be a healthier way, because we were losing too many people to suicide. And one of the correlations we found in that was the pharmaceutical side of it. And so when I retired, it led me on a journey. For almost a year, I traveled the United States looking at options, therapeutic, natural options. And that's where I ran into you. And we found that CBD offers a tremendous supportive supplement to help people. And that led me to create First Responder Fuel. We're one of the first ones in the nation that actually did third-party drug testing on top of the third-party lab analysis. And with your help, we created that line, and it's THC free. So doctors, nurses, surgeons, first responders can get the help they need and not have to worry about failing a drug test. And that's been going well. And that also helps support our nonprofit foundation, the Brotherhood of Heroes Foundation, which we're a 501c3 charity that all we do is go and help respond to first responders and their families during crisis, whether it be a natural disaster event, personal problem, health issues, end of life, whatever it is. We go and we support those families and give them the care and need that just doesn't really exist for us. We're kind of on our own as first responders out there. And through that process of teaching medicine to First Responder Fuel and the charity, it really has developed and pushed me into a new part of my life that I'm pursuing and finishing up, and that's to be a medical practitioner. I think having dealt with so many different people and having rode a fire truck and an ambulance for 30 years, I can tell you one thing: pharmaceuticals don't heal. And in a lot of cases, I'm all for it. Now, when it comes to emergency medicine and certain things, it's phenomenal stuff. Technology and medicines keep you alive. Seen it, done it, I believe in it. But when it comes to long-term health and wellness, I think that unfortunately, the majority of time, pharmaceuticals are overused and actually cause more problems than they solve. And unfortunately, with pharmaceuticals, they're not going to fix the problem. They kind of cover and mask the root issue. And so that's what led me down the road of holistic medicine and natural medicine is let's find the root cause. If we can find the root cause of what's going on and heal that, then you don't need all that other garbage that's making you sick or compounding and making things worse. So in a nutshell, medicine is my life. It's what I've dealt with since I turned 18. And my whole adult life has revolved around being a first responder and helping others and healing and saving lives.
You touched on so much right there. I don't even know where to start. First off, treating root causes, right? We preach that so often, MDs, pharmaceutical doctors, primary care physicians go straight to the prescription pad, treat the symptom and I say the prescription pad, really the tablet, right, to see what the pharmaceutical industry recommends are the most viable options, right, for them to prescribe today. And that may change tomorrow based on the next new drug finishing its trials and showing some benefits. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we'll come back to. But I do want to touch on something you said very early on, and that was suicide rate among first responders, police officers, firefighters. And I think that often gets so overlooked. There's a lot of awareness and more awareness, not enough, but more and more awareness starting to be raised around, the 22 veterans a day that are committing suicide. But I think that everyone directly overlooks those first responders and service providers that honestly deal with, pardon me, 20 to 30 years of dealing with traumatic events, whether that be, car crashes, fires, children, etc. And so, I would like to just note on that. And now your foundation has some things ongoing, working with those families you mentioned. And so we'll get a link up at the end of the show. But what was the name of the foundation?
The Brotherhood of Heroes Foundation.
Brotherhood of Heroes Foundation. So for anyone wanting to learn more about, how they can help or even apply for assistance, the Brotherhood of Heroes Foundation.com.
.org.
Very good.
Yeah, you hit on something huge. We see a lot of, awareness being brought to the military side of things, but there's nothing out there for first responders, or I shouldn't say nothing. It's limited in the public. There's no awareness with the public for first responders. Within our community, it's kind of getting out there. I'm able to work and partner with some phenomenal therapists and do some things in that regard to help get that word out there. And it's slowly growing. It's way better. At least now we have some starting points and some options versus, 30 years ago when I started, there was nothing. I can remember going to my first really bad call and seeing the death of children and a family. And when you get back in the day, it was like, if you even thought about, hey, I need to talk about it, or this is upsetting me, you were looked down upon, and it was thought, maybe you're not cut out for this job. Maybe you need to go find something else. And so, for a lot of us, we were taught to bury it. Now that mindset has changed now, especially in the last probably 10 years. We talk about it more, and there's options out there to get that help. But what people don't understand is with first responders, it's a cumulative effect. It could just be one scenario that really triggers something, or it could be the years and decades of seeing that repetitive. You see the worst of the worst in people, the worst of accidents and trauma, and just you name it. That has an emotional toll. And so for me, I deal with a lot of first responders that, the way they compensate now is through alcohol, self-destructive tendencies, alcohol, sex, or drugs. And so, when you start combining those, that's bad news. So to me, that's what really led me on that journey of, I was lucky enough to have a supportive family, group of people that supported me, employees that helped me through it, and had a phenomenal therapist. And I was able to dig myself out with that help. I took the initiative, said, this is not where I want to be. I was self-destructive, and fixed it. But then I looked at, that's not the case for everybody. A lot of people may not have that initial awareness or drive to get out there and fix it. So, they're just looking for somebody to hold their hand and go, man, lead me. I'm in a bad place. So that's really what made me get with what I found is, CBD is a stepping stone to help relieve a lot of the emotional tolls that you have to deal with, and allows me then to go proceed and move forward with therapy and other options to help me overcome that mental stress. And it's accumulative. It's not a one, you just take this and it fixes it. No, it's what I call a holistic approach to mind, body, and spirit. So, if we can address all of those, then we find great success. And I've been able to see people go from, hey, I'm drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels and having to take, pills just to go to sleep at night when I'm off duty, to I'm off all of that now. And it's all because of a product and therapy and options and guiding them. So to me, that's huge.
Couldn't agree more. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of those therapy options.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we are back with Lee Vernon. We left off, Lee, talking about something that again does not get near enough recognition, and that side awareness for first responders and EMT. And we were just getting into kind of not just the pharmaceutical treatment options, and of course the self-destructive options, alcohol and drugs. But starting to talk about some of the natural approaches that you have employed over the years, and some of the things that you've doing. I know you have a line of products because I've worked with you for several years on the development of several of them. Mm-hmm. And so the First Responders Fuel is your line of products, firstresponders.fuel.com.
Right.
And And you have a line specifically that is devoted to clarity, focus, cognitive function, kind of management of anxiety, depression, PTSD. And I'd love if you would talk a little bit about that and why some of those, key ingredients still matter.
Well, I think it's a culmination of you look at what's going on with the brain and feeding the brain what it needs so it can compensate and thrive. And so it's much more than just adding, a CBD supplement to it. I think it's what I love is working with you. We putting together those culmination of vitamins and minerals that we really don't get anymore in our food supply. The way stuff is harvested and grown now, we have lost so many nutrient values in so much of the food. And so therefore, you need to supplement the body and brain. And you do that through vitamins and minerals and supplementation. And so I think it's that culmination of adding all of that together. And what I like about it is everything's natural. There's no caffeine. So there's no that jitteriness, none of that. There's no crash because we're feeding the body things that it needs. And so to me, I think it's that culmination of bringing a synergistic effect of everything together. And, I think the CBD aspect of it all brings a lot of therapeutic benefits since you're feeding those C1 and 2 receptors in the body. Just to really, what I notice is when I get that afternoon lull or I'm getting sleepy or I travel a lot. So a lot of driving and flying, with that, I deal with ADHD. And so sitting behind something, staring at a computer screen, trying to write up stuff is like, man, I got too many squirrels. But when I take that, I get very focused. I'm able to be 10 times more productive because I'm able to, the squirrels aren't bothering me. I'm not off doing 20 different things. It's like, boom.
They're all lined up on the fence post, right?
Oh yeah. And they're just itching to get in there and, give me hell for the day. So I find that, during that, I'm able to stay a really laser sharp, focused, attentive, and just mentally energetic to accomplish things throughout the day. And so what I've also found is with those vitamins and minerals, there's that calmness as well. So, I just find it's probably one of the top sellers between that and the PM because we're first responders working all the 24 on or 48 straight and then 96 off or 24 on, 48 off. Depending on where you work, our sleep patterns are awful. And so that's where I think a lot of chemical dependence comes in is because of our sleep patterns. And so with that, adding those key natural vitamins and ingredients and minerals and things that help the brain relax as well. We got one that's going to energize and get you focused, another one to relax, shut the hamster wheel off so the body can rest. And I think those two products that we've developed with y'all they're by far our top selling ones because people rave and go, finally, I don't have to take Ambien. I don't have to take all these other pharmaceutical drugs to sleep. And I still wake up feeling like crap. I actually go to sleep. It's restful. The REM is increased and they feel great. So
now all your products are THC free, correct?
Correct. We use broad spectrum. So there's no THC in our products.
That's right. So, and broad spectrum means multiple cannabinoids, right? But no THC. So for those, especially active duty, first responders and officers and even nurses, doctors, anyone working in the ER, right? That all goes hand in hand. These products at First Responders Fuel are able to be taken in all 50 states, minus South Dakota and Idaho. And they'll get on board one day. But they can be, legally obtained. You guys have a website where they can be purchased online. And so anyone that is, in that field or has a family member in that field and maybe looking to add a supplemental nootropic, adaptogenic, nutrient line, vitamin, CBD product that is all verified, THC free. I think First Responders Fuel is a great option They can go to the website. I'm sure if they need to get a hold of you, if they have specific questions, there's a contact form there.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, don't go on and just order. Actually get with me. Every single client that we have, I have personally talked to and guided them in the right direction, because everybody deals with something different. And so I've been able to streamline that instead of trying to find out where you need to be on dosage and all that. I'm like, I've got that down to a T of we're going to get you dialed in within, most people, 1 to 2 weeks. A couple take a little longer, but that's the key, because unfortunately out there, if you just go and buy something off a shelf from somebody else, you may not necessarily know what you're getting. To the dosage, there's so much stuff out there that either doesn't have the correct dosage in there, it's not as advertised, or your body simply needs more. And so you take the lowest dose and go, well, this doesn't work. That's all BS. It's like, well, no, it's maybe because your body needs 100 milligrams a day, not 10. So understanding what your body needs and going through, I talk with every single individual and guide them on the course to healing. So I always tell people, reach out to me, contact me, and I'm going to guide you and put you in the right direction quickly.
I think that is so important, right? That you're there and behind your product line to help those who are looking for alternatives to kind of navigate those waters. There's not enough of that out there. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of claims, right? But to actually be able to work hand in hand with your patients is a big deal. So
and we're the only company I know in North America in this field that actually does third-party drug testing. So having my medical company, I was able to set up drug testing that does all the testing for first responders here in the Central Texas area. Went down there, and I routinely will occasionally call up a patient and go, hey, would you mind doing me a favor? Need you to go down and take a urine analysis, and I'll mark out your personal stuff. And we try to keep an updated form of, recent tests. So we have done everything we can for transparency and to build trust, to let people know you will not get in trouble for taking our products. I can't speak for others. And if you are taking a full spectrum, which includes the legal amount of THC in there, you will pop hot, even though it's a low amount. Cumulative, it will build up in the system and you're going to pop hot, and that's a problem. So we really want to make sure we can have people's trust and let them know that it's safe to take, and what we have is what we say. And it's all right there in the testing and the lab analysis.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. And we'll come back and talk more about some new products and some new things you're working on.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Lee Vernon, and we were just getting into some really good stuff. Lee, you've got some amazing products. I've been privileged enough to work with you on some of those, and I know you got some new stuff coming out. Maybe for those who are retired or no longer, active personnel that don't have to drug test. And so love for you to talk just a smidge about that for us, or how that may apply to that demographic.
Yeah. Well, I'm finding, as more and more retire from the profession, we all have, most of us, not only the mental aspect of what I call injuries, but physical injuries. We're hard on our bodies. It is as I call, a young man's profession. You tear your body up in ways that you don't think about until, when you get older and go, I can't do that anymore. And so even though CBD is an anti-inflammatory and it's great for mitigating and managing inflammation, which causes pain in a lot of cases, some of that can't be mitigated when you have bone on bone ligaments that are no longer working, or overstretched or overworked, to whatever the injury may be. That inflammation may not necessarily be the root cause, just because of, depending on the injury. So I'm finding with that, and also with a lot of cancer patients, a lot of first responders, cancer is astronomically high. When you're dealing with that kind of pain, you need some other options. And right now, for the most part, if you're not in a legal state where cannabis is legal, marijuana, your only option is opioids, and that causes problems. So, for me, of being able to include the legal amount of THC, that 0.3%, which that is law, just adding that to a component can help reduce and manage pain more efficiently and naturally. And, by doing those lower amounts, you're able to still function and be productive and go about your day and not have to sit there and just be in constant pain. So, that is something we're looking at. We're working on with y'all on getting those R&D done and everything, kind of the formulas where we want it. And the hopes is here in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be offering a retirement line. And it truly will. It's what I'm going to call is the retirement line for those that no longer have to worry about drug testing. And it'll have that legal limit in there. But again, with time, you would fail a drug test, but if you're retired and you're no longer subjected to it, you really won't care at that point. So just offering more holistic, natural options for pain management. Things, THC includes those, even that small amount is an incredible benefit when it comes to sleep, creativity. It just encompasses so many things. And that's the one thing we lack at a first responder fuel for those that are subjected to testing. But those that aren't, why should they continue to have to suffer on that? So we're going to work on taking care of those retirees as well with their own line.
Well, and we get a lot of people saying, oh, well, I picked up a bag of gummies in my local convenience store the other day, right? Well, Delta 8. What is this Delta 8? That's something that, we're seeing. And for example, here in Oklahoma, 2021, I believe there was a little under 900 adverse effects reported through, the Bureau of Narcotics for marijuana-related events. In 2022, it was nearing over 2,000.
Yep.
And the deal in Oklahoma being a medical legal state, one of the most successful medical programs in the country by amount of patients, it wasn't that there was less weed here in 2021 than there was in 2022, right? It was the entrance and the appearance of all these products like Delta 8, Delta 10, HHC, THCP, all these analog isomerized salts of, CBD is really where they all come from. And, there's no regulatory bodies set in place to control what solvents or chemicals are being used in the manufacturing or how much is left over. And I believe that's where the majority of those adverse events reportings are coming from.
Yep.
But at the same time, states like Texas, where you're at, Oklahoma, where I'm at, Senate Bill 635 here, will essentially require all products, especially those that are isomerized or synthesized from CBD, to be listed as a synthetic clearly on the label. And
Texas is actually going as far as, I think they're going to ban it altogether.
I believe they are going to ban the isomerized compounds. Yes. So anything not natural. Now, that would, natural compounds, CBD, CBG,
Right.
THC, CBN, right? Those are
Yeah.
naturally found, and if derived legally, will be unaffected, right, as a natural product. But everything that's being synthesized, New York, California, even Colorado now has a new bill up to stop that.
Yeah, I've been
Because
speaking out. I'm with you on it. I've been speaking out for 2 years now, going to conferences across the country, and boy, I get a lot of ugly looks when I go, "What's your view on Delta 8?" And I go, "Stay the hell away from it." It's not helping the industry. You're not helping people, and we're seeing too many negative things come about that. And the whole purpose of cannabis is let's utilize the natural benefits that the plant provides, not let's add synthetic. I call it, it's meth in cannabis when you start doing Delta 8 and 10 and all that, of spraying compounds that are not found in that plant in order to enhance the effects.
No, it's definitely a Walter White situation.
Yeah.
Right. Like, these are made chemically produced in labs, presumably, or someone's bathtub, right? Somewhere.
Yeah.
Not with a lab. But yeah, they're dangerous in the end, right? It's not, there's not enough data on those compounds because they're so new, and they're created because of a market that allowed this to be created, right? They take a legal product like CBD and convert that into these other compounds, and many of them are psychoactive. Many of them can be very psychoactive. And so there is a need for regulation. Now, the products for your retirees all be natural, Delta 9 THC, same THC as in marijuana, but found, of course, derived from hemp, where it is legal for all 50 states, minus Idaho, South Dakota. And now I get a lot, of questions that people go, well, how can 0.3%, right, be enough to do anything? Well, the law breaks down by weight. So if we have, let's say, a gummy that weighs 3.5 grams, actually have right about 10 milligrams just over of THC in that product. And so, those can be very effective as a low dose medication. Those that are looking for something a lot more mild, I would say, hitting
Absolutely.
initially. However, you take 2 or 3 of them, 30 milligrams of THC. No different than if you were to go to the dispensary, right, and get a medical grade gummy, except for that medical product's only going to have THC in it, as to where, some of the formulations we're working on will have individual minors like THCV for appetite suppression and creativity, and PSD, CBG for pain management, inflammation, talked about earlier, and of course CBN for sleep. Probably one of the most important minor compounds, and I would say probably more than half of people looking to cannabis to medicate are looking to it as a sleep. I know I use it personally. I'm a medical patient here in the state, and finding products with CBN in them are almost impossible. I'd be able to find a little bit of flour that's got a little bit of CBN in it because it sit on the shelf too long and it started to oxidize, right? But it's hard to find an actual product, right, that has a specified dose and specified ratios and consistent. I believe that's what, we're putting together for the experiment line.
So when working with you, we know you and I were the first that I know of to offer CBN out there as a sleep enhanced supplement. And back in, I'm trying to think, this is 2020,
late 2019 or early 2020.
Yeah, 2020. And we submitted that, and we won the best sleep formula in the state of Texas for the Texas Hemp Awards. Nobody came close to it. And one of the key compounds was CBN. And so it's definitely been a game changer on that.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a quick break and hear from the sponsor. And we're going to come back and talk about something I think everyone is very much going to want to hear.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
welcome back, Patriots. So we're here with Lee Vernon. We've already talked about some amazing topics. Lee, you've done so much in the past 30 years that has led you to kind of your mission today, where your path headed forward. I know you've got a new practice that's going to be opening in South Texas, Austin area. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, the goal is to got to fix and take my board certification, get the testing done, and once that's done, hopefully here in by summer, I want to have our holistic medical practice up. It'll be the Holistic Wellness Center, and it's based around natural medicine and healing the mind, body, and spirit, and getting people off of pharmaceuticals for wellness, and then really teaching and guiding people to take control of their health. I think that's key. That's something I learned riding a fire truck, running thousands and thousands of medical calls. I looked at people and going, man, there's one consistency as they got older. It's more and more pills and meds, and their health didn't improve. And so if we can treat and heal the body naturally, then I fully believe that you will have a much more fuller life without so many of the issues that we deal with as a country today in the medical profession. So that'll be open to anybody in the country. We'll have telemed and be able to do things that your normal provider or insurance may not do, like DNA nutritional testing, different types of blood work. And our goal is to offer affordable medicine and be able to encompass all of that into not only getting guidance and you're getting care and you're getting help, but we're going to be able to include as an option all of your testing, all of your supplementation. Everything you need to get well will be in one package and make that affordable. So that's the goal. Hopefully we'll have that up and going. Goal is June, July this year.
I love it. Love it. I want to be patient number one.
Come on.
Yeah, yes, sir. So I know you've got some programs running right now that hit home with me. Something I'd like to sign up for next time we can get one. But doing wilderness and survival training, especially from a medical background.
Yep.
I'd love to hear more about that, and I'm sure our Patriots here would as well.
Yeah, for the last few years, really have gotten into what I call a steer environment medical training. And that could be from, hey, going camping out at the lake and something happens. And there is anytime you start moving outside of the city, your medical care is significantly reduced when it comes to response times. So being able to take care of yourself. What if we have a natural event like the ice storm here 2 years ago? There's no help coming to you. The resources were overwhelmed. You couldn't get to people, and people died. And I believe a lot of those deaths were preventable deaths if people just simply knew how to stop bleeding, how to take care of things, how to buy time until medical help arrives. So we've been doing a lot of wilderness medical training, survival training on basically, I guess you can call it prepping, but I call it being a responsible American. Are you able to provide food, water, and shelter and basic medical care for your family in a time of crisis, hurricane, earthquake, fires, you name it, ice storms? So I noticed that really didn't exist out there. And so we've been working with numerous people. I teach at numerous conferences across the U.S. each year. And matter of fact, just recently had an opportunity next year. I'm hoping to get to go to base camp of Mount Everest, and along the way be able to provide medical care to some of the villages when we make that trek. So we've been providing a lot of that across the country. And, we can do everything from backyard pharmacology and medicine to trauma care, stop the bleed, you name it. It's based around either nobody's coming to help you, or help is going to be significantly, the time to get to you is going to take a while. So you better be able to take care of yourself or a loved one. And so we put together programs that teach that. I think that's something, I love it because it gets us out in nature. I love nature, being up in the mountains. I get to spend a lot of time up in Montana teaching to corporate clients up there. And when I go up there, I'll always go and spend a couple of days up in the mountains by myself and just test. And to me, it's therapeutic getting out there, testing and practicing what we're doing. Last time I was out, I had a broken hand, and I went, cool, I teach all this, but I'm always teaching with two hands. Let's see what happens when I got one. And, it was a good learning, humbling experience of like, okay, yeah, that just made things a lot harder, and it's going to take a lot more time. But, being able to get out there and do stuff like that builds confidence within the individuals and community of, you know what, you have some basic tools and knowledge. It will go a long way in preserving a life and helping somebody or yourself in a time of crisis.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's just something that there's not a lot of opportunities out there. And for us to be able to get out there and teach that type of stuff, I think is just responsible as an American of, hey, quit depending on somebody else to fix your problems. You can fix them if you have the knowledge and skill sets a lot of times to make a difference. And that's what we're passionate about.
I think with the current geopolitical climates, we're doomsday clock moved up to 60 seconds, right? I think there's no more important time than to learn how to survive in a traumatic situation, whether it's for you, a loved one, or a passerby. I know it's something that I would love more training on.
Yeah.
Though I feel pretty confident in my field medic bag kit I ordered from the Army surplus store. Great to have a little more real world, firsthand situational experience to kind of educate on that. So I think that's huge.
And being a first responder, you get to see that firsthand. The ice storm a couple of years ago was amazing. On people didn't, we were without electricity and water for days, and people were like, I don't even know how to flush a toilet. How do I do that if the water pipes are frozen? I'm like, I see a pool in your backyard, and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, go grab some water out of the pool and flush your toilet.
I got a bucket.
How do you do that? And I'm like, oh my goodness, so some of that basic stuff that we take for granted because we do it and we're thinking outside that box, I realize a lot of people aren't experienced to that. And so just giving that experience and showing them some basic things really opens the door and builds that confidence to take care of themselves.
For sure. I think, and we saw it there in Dallas. I was getting calls from family members and friends and partners down there. A lot of times someone can have a great head on their shoulders, but when in an emergency situation, traumatic situation happens, it's very difficult for most, especially those who haven't experienced that, not just once, twice, but multiple times, right? And how to respond and react to that. And so I think the situational training that you guys are providing is
reality-based. That's where it's got to be. And one thing I've learned over decades and decades of being in the profession and teaching other adults is you will always resort to your lowest level of competency. So that means if you've never had the reality-based training, when reality smacks you in the face with something, not going to go well. Versus those that have had quality training, your brain doesn't recognize the difference between training and the real deal. All it knows is like, you know what? I remember seeing something similar to this. I know what to do. And so that really does make a difference. It's got to be reality-based, not somebody, as I preach out there in the medical training world, of there's other companies that teach things and they give a lot of verbal diarrhea and read off out of a book or a PowerPoint, but they don't really teach you anything. Whereas we come in and go, no, I want to give you the foundation information to make you successful, hands-on skills experience, and then combine it and put it all into scenario-based training so you can put all of that together, and we're addressing the mental side of things, the physical side of things. And then when you leave, you will have the confidence to be able to perform at a higher level when it really matters. And that's what's important on that.
Oh, absolutely. I think Hollywood has done a really good job at desensitizing us, right? And showing us those situations, right? And us feeling like we've experienced it. But real life is not Hollywood.
No.
You don't get a respawn, right?
No.
When it's a whole lot different when it's happening in real life. And I've seen it, I don't know how many times over the years, right? I have always had that intuition to be the one to spring into action and try to resolve the situation as soon as possible. Always been good with my kids' injuries and broke arms and Now, some parents freak out, don't know what to do, and I think every relationship there's usually one of those parents, and then one that has everything under control and is cool, calm,
Yep.
collected, and I've always kind of been that guy, but at the same time, I believe that it would be great for myself, my kids, love my boys to attend, something like that, to be able to give them a little more situational awareness, because frankly, this generation does not have the experiences. They unfortunately, for a stereotypical generation, didn't grow up ramping bikes off in the rock pit, right? They're doing that, but it's on a headset, right? And
Yeah.
they get a respawn.
Yeah, and it's not that adrenaline dump when things go bad. You can't replicate, but you can replicate it, and we do in the training. And I think that's one of the key things versus virtual. You're not getting that immediate body response of, oh hell, what is this? Versus in real life, putting you in those scenario-based examples and situations, you can see what really goes on in the body, what you can control, what you can't. And one of the big things I always tell people, if you only take one first aid class and it's been 20 years, I got news for you. It's a perishable skill. Technology changes, how we treat and do things changes. And so you got to constantly practice and be on top of that in order to be proficient. It is something that's perishable. It's no different than, playing a sport or doing, something that's very meticulous and there's steps involved. In order to stay proficient at it, you need to do it on a regular basis or you lose it.
Yes, sir. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and wrap up.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we're back, everybody. Lee, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. You have definitely dropped some pretty good. We need to know more about where your links are, how we can find more information on, everything.
Well, you can find us at, for Code 3 Medical Services, it's code, the number 3, medicalservices.com. First Responder Fuel is exactly that, firstresponderfuel.com. And then the foundation is brotherhoodofheroes.org. And then for email, it's Lee, Lee, at whichever one of those you need to get a hold of me at. It will lead you to the right place. So those are the current ones up, and the website for the Holistic Wellness Center, it's currently in process of being built. It'll be up here in the next few months.
Very good. Well, like I said, sir, thank you for taking your time to come talk to us and tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, and always a pleasure to see you, talk with you, and chat, and just share knowledge, man. Just try to make people better.
Talk soon, brother.
Sounds good. Y'all be safe.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
right, Patriots. Thank you all for joining us on today's episode of Pioneering Change. I'm your host, Farmer Ryan Early. Till next time, we'll continue searching the past to grow a brighter future for everyone.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.